All right, hello and welcome back. I'm excited today because we're going to be doing another astrocartography case study, chart reading, whatever you want to call it. Today I have Evelin Banderas. She is from Brazil and actually is in Brazil right now. And we're gonna dive into her chart. So Evelyn, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for welcoming me. I'm really excited and very curious.
Yeah, awesome. I'm excited to dive into this as well. But real quick, can you also give like a little bit of your background to astrology? Like how much have you looked into? How much have you worked with your chart before and things like that?
Oh, well, I like to say that I like everything that people call esoteric. So I love astrology, and in Brazil we are a huge fan. So
Oh, no.
everyone knows their rising sign, their sun, their moon, and whenever we meet a guy, we say, "Can we the hour, the day, and the city
I
you
love
were
that.
born," and then we just go to astro.com and
I love that.
but yes, I had my birth chart reading when I was so young. So young for the time. I think I was 16, maybe
Okay.
15. And she was an astrologer and a tarot reader. It was amazing. It
Nice.
changed my life. I mean, it helped me a
Mhm.
lot. And I try to follow the transits, and it makes a lot of sense for me to prepare myself for Mercury retrogradings and Venuses and all of these planets. I try to watch when the moon is off course and all these little things. And I also did things that I love about astrology. For example, I recently had my um, MC reading
Mhm.
connected to my job, and it was incredible.
Oh, nice.
So, how I
Yeah.
could make it better and how I could use social media and marketing to help it grow, and just everything that she said just started to make sense, and I started to apply
Hmm.
it, and I started to see a lot of results like immediately. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, I think it's amazing. And with
Yeah.
astrocartography, I think I found out about it when I was probably around kind of like 5 years ago, but I didn't understand. I started
Okay.
to understand like little by little.
Hmm.
And now that I am much more into it, and everything made a lot more sense in my life once I started to see that.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. I love that you've had like a almost like a lifetime of experience with astrology, just because I do fully believe in the power that it holds, not necessarily like over us, but in sense of empowering you too in your own journey in navigating all these transits and all these life changes and in your case a lot of travels as well. So I'm excited to dive into your chart a little bit and we'll go ahead and see how this unfolds. So this is your natal chart. And first thing that kind of stands out is lots of Scorpio placements, which I love. I am a Scorpio moon, so Scorpio holds a very warm place in my heart. Yeah, so Scorpio rising, South Node conjunct Scorpio. And then not only that, also you have Saturn, Mercury, Pluto, all in Scorpio in your 12th house. So I'm actually kind of curious, like, are you very spiritual?
Very, very.
Okay. I normally in like a very loaded 12th house, I would see that being a major theme in your life. Also, probably a lot of challenges earlier on in your life in terms of navigating some of the energy that you're feeling and understanding it. Um, Especially like your south node is where you've been, and in a way, like your rising sign also is in a sense too. Like that's kind of an energy that you come in with, very familiar with, very firm in, and very comfortable in. Um, Whereas your north node is something that you're working toward. And so there's this element of wanting to kind of be in the shadows and stay in like the a little bit of the heavier Scorpio energy versus more grounded in your day to day. And so I guess I would love for you to also share if anything kind of sticks out to you as far as your experiences in life and things that have come up in terms of how like some of these placements are show up for you, whatever you're comfortable with though. So,
Yes, I think you said that I'm very spiritual, and it's 100% true. Although I don't follow any particular religion, but
mhm.
I do everything, and I believe in everything at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I attract the people who are like super, oh, I love energy, I do energy healing, I
Hmm.
do believe in all of these things. But yes, it's very difficult sometimes for me to deal with the energies surrounding me ever since I was a
Mm.
child. I used to get sick a lot with no reason at all. But my mom is also a very spiritual person and a very intuitive person. So she kind of knew
Hmm.
that, yeah, maybe this is more related to energy and
Hmm.
the things that we cannot see instead of things that are
Yeah.
physical. So I actually have been very
Yeah.
lucky I have been very lucky with the people in my life that believe in me and believe in these things, even doctors too, when I arrive there and they kind of see that it might be something that they don't really know. And
Hmm.
they're not that skeptical. And
Yeah.
yeah, maybe I consider myself lucky because of that. But yes, I do need to stay in the shadows, in the shadow a little bit. But with my meet heaven,
But Leo. Not really meant to stay in the shadows in that regard, right? Like, I think if I recall correctly, you're a dancer,
I'm
right?
a
So
ballerina.
being on
I'm a
stage,
pro. I'm a pro
yeah.
dancer. Yes.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because so I actually am surrounded by a ton of Scorpio risings, and a lot of them do have that Leo midheaven. And so I'm like, part of me is wondering, like, okay, what are you hiding from? Why are you hiding from, being on stage or being seen? And because that's really what Leo is all about, right? It's that just kind of center of attention sort of thing. I mean, it's represented by the sun, which you have in Libra, which is related to like beauty, harmony, and that sort of thing. So, I'm actually kind of curious. Like for you, is like dancing kind of a form of maybe not necessarily meditation, but like connection to source?
Yes. It's a. There's no better way to say it, but that's how I say it when I'm teaching and when I'm dancing. It's like a connection to the goddess.
Yeah. Oh.
Like a long story short, whenever I'm working during rehearsals, I try to give my best, but I never give my best. And people usually criticize me a lot because of that, because I'm doing
Yeah.
like 40, maybe 50% of what shows on stage. And I'm doing
Hmm.
my best, but when I'm on stage, I completely I'm I don't see the audience, I don't see anything. I just feel like that's my place, that's where I belong, and that's where I need to be.
Yeah.
And I feel amazing, I feel pretty, I feel empowered, and I feel this superpower, and it's very spiritual actually. And it has a lot to
Yeah.
do with the origins of dance, that it is the connection with the higher self,
Mm.
according to history. And I think it's that. I think it's, yes, it's a meditation, but for me, it's more like of a spiritual practice. And
Experience. Yeah.
I do feel very incomplete when I'm not dancing.
Mm. Hmm. Yeah, it's always fascinating to me to see how certain aspects will play out from the chart, or whatever you have in your chart, to the real world in a sense, right?
I'm sorry, you said,
Go ahead.
oh, what are you hiding from? But when I'm on stage, I don't need to hide.
Mm. Mm. Yeah. So I guess that's an interesting part of it because So you have your sun sitting in your 12th house, right? But you also have like all these other planets that are technically within your rising sign. And so it's like the those two energies are completely different, the Scorpio versus the Libra. And so yeah, when you're doing like what you're meant to be doing in terms of your career, that part kind of sticks out a little bit more as far as wanting to be seen and wanting to show up and bring that forward. I mean, also if you look at the fact that like Libra is ruled by Venus, and Venus is also sitting in your first house, and so it's like that ability to bring out the beauty of dance or that expression of it probably comes out a lot more for you. Now, I know we're kind of jumping around a little bit here, but starting into your first house too, though, it's like you have, yes, rising is in Scorpio, but then it also moves into Sagittarius. And so you do have this aspect of you that's kind of like a little bit more hidden, a little bit more secretive in a sense. But then you also have this other part of you that's a little bit more outgoing, a lot more like here to kind of just be bigger than life in a sense. And that can come out in terms of how you express like love. It can come out in terms of how you express like any creative ideas or innovative ideas, I should say, with Uranus being there. But I'm curious about like what that has looked like for you. You've got your Venus there opposing Chiron. You also have the Uranus opposing Chiron in your seventh house, and so it almost feels like there's this part of you that wants to stand out a lot more, not just because of your Leo midheaven, but also because Venus kind of loves to be seen, right? In terms of it's an appreciation of beauty, it's an appreciation of the finer things in life. And then Uranus also just naturally stands out because it's so different. And so I wonder if there have been challenges in your life in terms of really fully allowing yourself to express that part of you in relation to maybe relationships that you've had in the past.
Yes, yes, a lot, probably. I think when it comes to authenticity, being a woman, it's harder because we are conditioned not to be ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And but I think I've been working on that like for since I can. Uh, and but I think it's very interesting. You talking about my Uranus in the first house with Venus because I was the first woman in Brazil to win a commission, but one of the first women, I mean, all over, to win a commission using dance and technology all at once.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Um, and we got a commission from the government. We have these it's not like scholarships, but it's kind of like they give you the money for you to produce something and also sponsorship with all the tech stuff that are really expensive. And I think it kind of stands out. I think that's what I'm always looking for when I am working for myself. I don't want to do things that people are doing. I want to do something different. I want to
Mm-hmm.
go where
Mm-hmm.
no one ever went, or at least that I am aware of.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. That's so cool that you're able to do that. I don't know. I I'm a big fan of Uranus, and I think it's really cool just seeing where people can take the future in a sense. And so I love that you're able to do that. I think it's interesting too because you have Jupiter, which is the ruler of Sagittarius, and that sits in your second house in relation to finances. And so it's like that ability to hone into the things that you are bringing to the table that are pushing the envelope and also staying true to yourself in a sense is going to help you out in terms of the finances. And you also actually don't even have this, there are no hard aspects to Jupiter, so lucky you.
I mean, there's something that I think. that counterbalances all of that is that I
Mm-hmm.
understood that whenever I walk out of line, whenever I start doing something that I wasn't meant to be,
Mm-hmm.
my financial life crumbles.
Mm.
But once I start, like, I stopped dancing a few times in life because yes, I had my crisis and I also had my injuries.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever that happened, I was doing something else. Working with art is always good for me, but I started, oh, I'm going to do something else. I don't know. I studied journalism, so I can work with
Okay.
social media and at least have a second job
Backup plan.
to help me if I'm out of job. It's very important to have
Mm.
a second
Mm-hmm.
income. But I do feel that if I am doing that and not thinking about dancing or working with art, I my financial life just goes down the drain.
Mm.
And I think it's you were talking. I started to realize that, like, very recently, whenever I am not doing the things that I am supposed to, that I love, I lose my luck because I'm a very lucky person.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And when I say that I'm a very lucky person, I wake up and I received money from someone from my past, for example, like out of the blue.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but only when I'm doing the things that I'm supposed to. Otherwise, I lose my luck. I lose it completely. It's kind of like magic. It's kind of like someone saying, "Oh,
Mm.
you're walking out of line. You need to go back."
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, I find that funny because you have it sitting in Capricorn, which is ruled by Saturn, which is it's one of the planets that teaches you the hard lessons and keeps you in line and that sort of thing. And so it's almost like Saturn kind of coming out to play there in terms of, hey, are you sticking with the plan or are you deviating from that? And if you deviate from that, then we'll see. But I find it interesting too because you have Mars sitting there too, which is all about action and taking initiative on things, which traditionally is the planetary ruler of Scorpio, also Aries. But it's explains a little bit about the drive for having more stability, more maybe that traditional mindset of I need to have that backup plan. I need to have that security, that safety net. But if you think about Scorpio and it being basically your chart ruler in a sense, are you really kind of meant to embody some of those traits, or are you meant to push forward in a sense? And sorry if that didn't make sense. I don't know where
That
that was
made a
going,
lot.
but
That made complete sense. That made complete sense. You said something that is very interesting, but I made a connection now. You know, like when the lamp, uh,
light bulb. Yeah.
you're just like boom.
Yeah.
um, you said about Uranus. There is like these two people fighting. The person that,
Mm,
oh, you need to follow like my mom. My mom has a very stable life. She has a lot of money.
mm.
She worked for the
Not
government.
surprising, honestly.
She worked for the government, like
Yeah.
in the IRS and in these. She's like this, but she's an Aries with rising in Sagittarius and
Mm,
I don't know, Capricorn moon, and the rest of her chart
mm.
is all Capricorn basically. So she's
Oh
very
wow.
driven. She's very stable. She has like the backup plan. She has her savings. She has her investment. She didn't want a
Mm-hmm.
daughter who was going to be a dancer. She wanted someone who was going to be a lawyer or someone very traditional.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not. So there's this fight within me to be the person that is the traditional, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and the person who was meant to break the rules and to just like you know.
Yeah.
And sometimes I say, "Oh, I think so fast, and I think so that." either I get along very well with Aquarius people and
Hmm.
I talk to them and they say, oh, I usually feel like an alien, but when I'm with you, I feel less of an alien and you are more.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny that you say that because it's like you do have Uranus in your first house, but then you also have Aquarius in your IC, which represents your roots, your family life, the things, the ancestors, even the energy that you kind of carry forward from your childhood years and perhaps even beyond that too. And so it's no surprise, I guess, that you get along really well with Aquarians just because of that energy that you carry there. Shifting back to the what you were saying about your mom, though, it honestly is no surprise, I guess, that your mom is very stable, very career driven, and that sort of thing. I mean, you have your moon sitting in Virgo in the 10th house. And so, what that would indicate is because the moon relates to the mother, right? And so it can relate to a lot of the tendencies that she's kind of passed along, but it can also be some of the energy that she has carried as well. Um, so, sitting in the 10th house, very career oriented, Virgo, very organized, very almost perfectionist in a sense, too. Um, but I feel like what that means for you essentially is that there is this core part of you, your emotional part of you, the part that finds comfort, security. It comes from, having that career. It comes from having something that's a little bit more detailed and organized. And so you have a lot of aspects to this placement as well. It's literally right on this 10th, 11th house cusp. And so I guess I'm curious if you've been able to maybe focus more on the community that you're surrounded with versus the career, and um, whether or not that may bring you some more emotional security.
Um, yes and no. I think I think I made my work my community. Um,
Mm,
Much more. I have very little connection, emotional connection with my family. I have connections, of course, with my
hmm
mom, but the rest of the family are people that I'm a bit strange to, and not
hmm
strange in a way that, oh, they're bad people. It's just that I've been abroad so long that it's kind of like
Yeah,
we're
I've heard.
strangers, and yeah, my community became my work. I think the first time that I had a community outside the artistic world.
Hmm.
Oh, and this is something that always happened. I always brought my friends to work with me.
That's so interesting. It's like that perfect kind of blend of the two in a sense.
Yeah, every time that I can, I bring my friends, or the people that I'm working with become my friends, best friends. The first time that I didn't have friends or that I didn't find people in my work, within my work, was when I went to Greece in 2023,
Mm,
and that was the first time ever that I had friends outside my job, my
mm,
outside of art.
interesting. I'll be interested to look at your chart in Greece then, because I imagine there's a little bit more of a shift there. Um, but yeah, that's interesting to see how like you've basically blended the two houses in a sense. And I do firmly believe that it's probably because of your moon sitting right there at that cusp. Um, let's see, it does make a lot of aspects here, and so I wonder if like the emotional side of you is a big theme for you in your life. Reconnecting with your emotional side, your maybe even like nurturing yourself in a sense too.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely.
Okay.
I am a very emotional person, but sometimes I can be very rational, or I try to rationalize my emotions, but
Mm-hmm.
I work on not doing that.
I'm glad that you've been able to do that, because that is a challenge for Virgo moons, is rationalizing, is maybe ignoring like the actual emotions and thinking from it more of a from a logical perspective in a sense. So that's I'm glad to hear that you've done that. Okay, so we've covered a lot of the main points there. Before I move on, do you have any questions or anything else that may have come up for you?
There is a thought that came, but it's not really a question. You
Mm-hmm.
asked about the love life, and
Mm-hmm.
and there is something that came that I thought was funny. So I always I used to, I don't do that, I don't do that anymore. I used to always want to date people from my work or want to date people that
Mm-hmm.
I could work with.
Okay.
And one day I realized that the best relationships I had, they happened with people that had nothing to do with what I do, and they were more connected to the Aries and Jupiter in the second house, and dating men that were working with economy, something boring for me, but stable. They were the best partners,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's just one thing that I understood when I met, and talking to you right now and seeing
Mm-hmm.
that just made a lot of sense. That I always wanted to bring them to my work, but the best partners, because there is no separation between me and the
Mm-hmm.
dancer, me and the person who's working. I'm always
Mm-hmm.
working. A dancer never stops working. You are stretching at home. You are thinking about your food. You are thinking about the music. That never stops, and we don't have the
Mm-hmm.
same routine as everyone else. Like, I don't wake up at
Yeah.
7 on a Monday and then I go home at 5, and from Monday to Friday, from Monday to Saturday. I don't have that. Sometimes I'm going to work from Monday to Monday, and I don't have
Mm-hmm.
the time to go home. Sometimes I'm going to go home at 10, 11 p.m. Sometimes I'm going to go home at 6 p.m. And sometimes I'm not even going to be home for a week or two.
Yeah. It's a challenging. Um, I won't even call it really a routine because there's not really a routine, is there? It's kind of just working with whatever comes up in a sense. And so, yeah, it is interesting to me that like it would make sense logically, right? That you would want to find somebody in the same field as you so that they understand and are maybe a little bit more tolerant, or or even working the same hours as you. Um, but I kind of laughed a little bit when you said that the people that have worked out the best are the ones that have the more boring jobs. And immediately my mind was like, the earth signs, the very grounded, practical things. And so I just find it funny because it's like you have your North Node on your descendant in Taurus, and then your moon's in Virgo, and then you have this Mars sitting here in Capricorn as well, and all these things kind of point to this more grounded energy that's like really kind of here to bring you to the here and now as opposed to out in the ether where you probably tend to go a lot.
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
so it almost feels like, yeah, like finding that more grounded energy is going to be beneficial for you in the long run too. And so yeah, maybe look out for a Taurus or somebody with heavy Taurus energy. I don't know.
Yes, my longest relationships they were with Taurus, Taurus,
Okay.
and Leos.
Leo. Okay.
Yeah, but these Leos, they had strong Virgo energy. Amazing. They were amazing. They
Yeah.
were Germans. They were amazing.
Ah, weirdly that makes sense. I don't know. That's so cool.
I used to think that I would get along, that my best partners would be in France because, oh, France. But my best
Yeah.
partners, they came
Romance.
from
Yeah.
Germany.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. I don't know, I feel like Germans are very grounded people too. Like, but yeah, I think that's like kind of where you'll find your luck in a sense in terms of the type of partner. But you know, the who knows. A Okay. So you had given me a list of places that you've visited before, and then also you're living in Sao Paulo right now. So do you want to look at Sao Paulo first, or would you like to look at maybe Europe?
No, no, we can see uh, like an overall, but in Sao Paulo, just to look at where I've been, where I've lived. But
Okay.
no, I am just passing through Sao Paulo right now. Uh,
Okay.
I'm just dealing with some paperwork that is taking
Mm,
longer than I would like to.
that's fair.
It doesn't look promising, Sao Paulo, for what I know.
Yeah, there it is. Okay. Okay, so you got a Chiron descendant, so similar where your hometown was in a sense. So um, let's go ahead and jump over to Europe, if that's okay.
Yeah, great.
Let's go over here. Make this a little easier for myself. All right. So you've been to a few different places in Europe. Where was your favorite and least favorite of the list that you had provided?
Oh, okay. My favorite place of all times was Greece. I
Okay.
loved Greece profoundly. Like, I just loved it. And I felt at home. I felt amazing. In my astro map, looking at it, I don't know if it's like where you are. It has like a Neptune something there, and some other lines that go close. And it was incredible for
Yes.
me. It was the best place ever. Everything worked out. Everything was beautiful. Every people were beautiful. People were amazing. And I went there to. I had a very tough separation, and then I decided that I wasn't going to suffer where I was. I was going to suffer in Greece,
Mm.
and then I went to Greece, and I didn't suffer a day. It
Huh.
and it was amazing. The food, the people, the language, everything. And I didn't work. I mean, I did work, but not with dance,
Hmm.
which kind of like made a setback in my life. Uh,
Okay.
but um, but I don't regret. You know, I made amazing friends
Hmm.
outside of dance,
Hmm.
and it was the first time that I did that.
Okay. Interesting. So what I find interesting, I guess, is that so I'm not sure where the Neptune line. Well, I guess it's over here. So that's still a little far out, but I guess the closest line is actually a Pluto midheaven line. But you also have Mercury sitting there near the midheaven as well. One of the things that I'm playing around with this case study is the concept, and I'm not sure if you're familiar, but the concept of like Placidus versus whole sign. I think a lot of times most people who work with astrocartography only work with whole sign, and so what I want to do is look at how things show up in terms of Placidus for you. And so, based on this, it almost feels like there was a lot of like deep inner transformation. You have a loaded 12th house, you had Neptune there, which is like it's related to spirituality. And sitting in the 12th house, it's you've got that maybe even like a closer connection to source in a sense. Your moon sits in your 8th house, and so deeper work, inner work in terms of some of the emotions that you've maybe been holding on to. And then Sun, Pluto, and Mercury moving into the 9th house. That house can also relate to spirituality and religion in a sense, but also more in terms of expansion. And so it's a lot of growth, I guess is the best way to describe that placement. Mm,
I don't know. I yes, probably I had, but it wasn't like a painful growth. It was a beautiful growth,
okay.
you know. And yeah, I do
Yeah.
believe that in some way I grew up a lot. I was able to just yeah, I went through a separation, and the separation took every separation after a long time takes time to concrete to complete itself. And I was able to say
Mm,
no when the old me would say yes, would go
mm,
back and would accept.
yeah.
And I was able to walk away and know that I was right. And that was a huge growth for me, and something that I never believed that would be possible back like a few years ago. And yes, and it was a place of a lot of power, you know. I
Mm,
felt empowered, the literal sense of the word. empowered.
Yeah.
Like I was, yeah, that's it.
Interesting. Yeah. I I find it funny, I guess, that you would use the word empowered or power, like power, because that's what Pluto relates to. That's the closest line that you have there. And I think a lot of times people look at Pluto and have very negative connotations related to it, or they're like, "Oh, Pluto's out to get me," or whatever, you know. And but on the flip side of that is like this deep sense of inner power. It's strengthened sitting in Scorpio, obviously, but it feels like because you're willing to kind of maybe take a step back and do the inner work to grow, you were able to see the benefits of that too.
Yeah, I have a book here that talks a lot about Greek mythology and Pluto
Mm,
is Aries, and how the deepest treasures are hidden in the deepest in the underworld, like in the deep of the ocean. They're buried miles from the surface, and you
yeah,
have to dig deep to find those treasures. I think that's what Pluto means, and that's what Harry's holds the greatest treasures. But you have to go down there to the underworld
yeah,
to find it. But once you go
yeah,
there and you come back, you feel, like Persephone's, that she's empowered. She can
hmm,
go to the underworld, transform, and come back to the spring. And then she
hmm.
goes again for fall and winter, and she comes back.
Okay. Well, when you were talking about Persephone, it reminded me of Ceres, which is the mother of Persephone. And Ceres represents how we nurture and how we take care of ourselves, in a sense. Moon is kind of more on the emotional side, but Ceres is like more tangible in a sense, I guess. Especially for you sitting in Taurus, it's like you have it sitting there in your fourth house, which to me symbolizes you're able to make yourself a very comfortable home, a very nurturing space for yourself, something that was stable, secure, and you know appointed the way that you liked it, so that it was from like a sensory point of view, it was very nourishing to you. And so maybe having a little bit more stability, grounding in and enjoying home life was probably pretty lovely. I don't know. I think lovely is the best way I can describe that.
Yeah, I guess I felt home there, and
Yeah.
I have something that uh, not a lot of people have, but uh, I'm happy alone. I'm happy at home alone. I don't need to go out. I don't need to. I Of course I have friends. I have, but I can deal with that solitude very well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I imagine that's the Venus in the first house. It's related to Taurus, and Taurus can kind of be a little bit more of the homebody. I'm curious though, because you have Saturn moves into your 10th house there. And I know that you had mentioned that, career wise, you didn't really um, feel like you had progressed there. Um,
It's not that
did you?
it's not that I didn't progress. I didn't make the effort, but I did progress even though I didn't make the effort.
Mm, okay.
It was interesting. Like when I went to Greece, I met this woman, and she teaches the course that I've always wanted to take. And she
Okay.
invited me to take the course for free.
Wow.
Yeah. And
That's amazing.
yeah, it was like, who'd have guessed? Like out of the blue. And yeah. And then I started to follow this skincare brand, organic, because I am this nature person.
Hmm.
And then they sent me a few products, and
Nice.
eventually I worked with some content creation for a brand there of olive oil, like out of the blue.
Okay.
I didn't make the effort, but if I did make the effort, I would have progressed a lot, I think.
Okay. Okay. So it's like kind of seeing what's possible in a sense. When you said that, you had like a lot of these lucky experiences, I think that's one of those times where it's like, I kind of go back and forth between whole sign and Placidus because I feel like there's truth to both. And so in whole sign, Jupiter would be sitting in your first house, making you very lucky. So I can definitely see that. And then your sun would be sitting in your 10th house there. But I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I think that's why I'm so curious about Barcelona, because Barcelona, I was seeing some things that may be interesting. It's the same way, kind of like it was in Greece.
You were seeing similar things or you were not?
That I was seeing similar things, and for what I'm seeing, apparently, no. I mean, the sun is in the 10th, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Barcelona is interesting because you don't have anything that's very close to the angles. And so no major themes, no major energy there. It's just everything kind of shifts into different houses. And so the themes of being lucky kind of maybe happened again. I don't know, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Barcelona. Barcelona is a place that I'm thinking about going because my family has lands there. My family is Spanish.
Mm.
Um,
Oh, okay.
and yeah, they ran from the dictatorship, and they came to Brazil. And when my mom was little, and then eventually I was born,
Mm-hmm.
and they lost the lands because of the dictatorship. But there's this new
Mm.
law, the law of democratic memory, that is recovering all of those things, and that's why I'm in Brazil to,
Mm.
because my name is wrong.
The paperwork. Okay. Oh, geez.
My last name is, it's not that it's wrong. And when they came to Brazil, the name
Mm-hmm.
was translated, and it's normal. That happens everywhere. But for me to recover that land, the name has to be correct.
Correct. Okay. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
And that is why I'm thinking about going to Barcelona. And I was wondering if the lines would at least help me to have the same things that I had in Greece.
Not quite, just because things do shift a little bit. So looking at Greece, I find it interesting. It's like you had. Did you get sick at all when you were in Greece? Okay, so if I know I don't have this in whole sign right now, but if we're looking at whole sign, it's Chiron would be in your sixth house in Greece, which sixth house relates to your work, your routines, daily life, but also your physical health as well. And so, yeah, I imagine having Chiron there is not would not help with feeling very active or energized. But
Yeah, I was always very tired in Greece, although very happy, but very
mhm,
tired. And I had a rash.
mhm.
I had a skin problem that was never okay. It took like 6, 7 months to go away.
Oh, yikes.
Nothing
Okay,
horrible, just annoying.
that's fair. Um, okay, well, let's look at Barcelona because I know we just quickly looked at that. Um, so for Barcelona, I had mentioned like there are no planets on angles, so it's not like there's going to be significant planetary energies there for you, maybe compared to some of the other places you've been. But your sun moves into the 10th house, and so I wonder if maybe your ability to really allow yourself to shine and be seen and that sort of thing stands out maybe a little bit more while you're there. And I'm not entirely sure how like the ballet world works or how easy it is for you to work in different locations, but I don't know. I'm curious if you've explored that option at all.
Yes, I think it's not that difficult since I am Spanish, at least in paper. And as a
Hmm.
ballerina, it's easier
Okay.
than most jobs. But I also work online. I teach online. I have a platform that I'm going to, I had in Portuguese, but now I'm launching it in English, and I find that
Okay.
English is going to be even more profitable. And in a way, although I'm very shy, I can dress, I can put up a face and just go and talk to people and meet people. And usually people are very interested in like taking it and sh- doing workshops and stuff. But
Hmm.
I do know that um, online there is a, I'm still, I'm still working on my call. I'm still,
Mm.
I know that my midheaven kind of starts in the ninth house and moves to the 10th house, maybe. And there's like this teacher energy that I love to teach. I love to guide
Hmm.
people.
Hmm.
And teaching dance and teaching art is not really difficult. And I know people in
Yeah.
Spain, I know people in France mostly. And I
Okay.
will be close to France, so it's easy to take a train and go. It's very easy, actually, to move around
Yeah.
Europe once you're there.
Yeah. No, that's definitely true. I find it interesting that you are interested in teaching while you're there, and you have your moon that moves into the ninth house, which often relates to higher education, but also expansion of knowledge. And in a lot of ways, I attribute it to more of the teacher in a sense. And so it's like that would be deeply fulfilling for you there. And then you also turn into a Sagittarius rising there, which Sagittarius is also very much the sharer of wisdom. And so I think that seems very fitting to me in a sense. If we're looking at this in whole sign, essentially you'd have Venus sitting in your first house. And so I don't know if there was anything in relation to maybe things related to beauty, the arts. You also have Neptune that sits in there in the first house. So yeah, I mean, were you planning on doing like teaching dancing at all too,
Yeah, yeah,
or creative expression?
yes, yes. I do. I do mainly online. I have a wellness and fitness platform, and I teach a fusion of ballet and Pilates, but on the floor.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, it's completely low impact and completely safe, especially for women above 40 and people who
Okay,
have joint problems. They can do it, but it's hardcore. It's not easy. It's not because it's in the it's on the floor
believe it.
that it's easy. It is not easy.
Yeah.
And that has wellness classes also. But I also do
Hmm.
teach, but this is more focused. It's more like towards professionals, either
Okay.
dancers, either actors, body awareness, body expression. Recently, I put on a workshop for women that were entrepreneur to teach them how to become who they need to be. So it's an acting class,
Hmm.
but it's more has a lot of somatic education, has a lot of acting
Okay.
and a lot of performance, and that's kind of something that I do and I love doing. I love teaching people how to express, or even
Yeah.
actors that need this, because dancers and choreographers, we work with dancers a lot, like
Hmm.
in movies, in theater, to teach them how to be how to be more, you know.
Expressive.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. When I hear stories of people, their experiences, their desires, and that sort of thing, and how it kind of ties back to the astrology, my mind's zigging and zagging between all the different placements and how it makes sense, really, like what you're saying. Because it's sitting in your fifth house, you have your north node. Fifth house relates to creativity, it relates to self expression or vitality, fun, romance, like very Leo traits. And so, what that signals to me is how can you bring those themes, um, and make it more tangible and make it more real. Taurus is that very grounded energy, and it's also related to Venus, which is would be sitting in your 11th house in Placidus, like community. And so building those communities and really using that as a platform to allow yourself to be creative, allow yourself to express yourself. One thing to note too is you have your south node that also moves into your 11th house, and so perhaps there may be more of a push to find your own individual self-expression, your own individual creativity, as opposed to leaning more heavily on the community around you. And so I know that you've like kind of in the past experienced going into trying to create your own communities in a sense, but there might be maybe a little bit more focus on yourself in Barcelona, which not necessarily a bad thing, but just something to consider.
Yeah, I think it's okay.
So
It's
yeah,
to Spain. People are more
yeah,
difficult to create communities when you're in a when you're in a yeah. I mean, people think that Spanish people are very open, but they're not exactly. The Balkans are more open, like Greece and
okay,
Croatia and Albania. They are more open. They're more welcoming than Spain, and that's okay. I come
okay.
from a Spanish family, and they're the same.
Yeah, yeah. You kind of understand that energy in a sense. And, you know, it's funny because Saturn sits in your 11th house too. And so Saturn can delay things in a sense or make things harder. And so, you know, building that community may be a little bit more challenging.
Yeah, I'm ready for it. I'm ready for
Um,
it.
okay.
One thing that is
Okay.
good, one thing that is good is that I won't be alone also there. Not
Good.
exactly like because when I went to Greece, I was completely alone, and in Spain, I
Mm,
won't be completely alone. I have at least one
yeah.
friend that is going to be very close if I go there.
Okay. That's good. That's good. I'm glad to hear that. It almost feels there's a little less that you're kind of diving into the shadows in Barcelona compared to Greece.
Yeah, I
Um,
want less
I don't really
shadow.
have
I
anything.
want less shadow.
What was that?
I want less shadow. I am tired. I'm exhausted. I've had enough.
Yeah, that's totally fair.
I need a break, just a
um,
break. I know that I am a Scorpio rising with a lot of Scorpio planets, but the girl needs a break sometimes.
yeah. No, I completely understand that. It's life can be sometimes a little overwhelming, and so maybe having a little bit more peace would be helpful. I think you'll probably still be busy, but it's not like, you know, the heavy stuff.
But I still am going to have
um,
Chiron in the sixth house.
hmm
But I think,
Yeah. So
but I think
go ahead.
unlike Greece, I will be prepared to go to Spain.
Yeah. The interesting thing about Chiron is it's the wounded healer, and so it's like the more that you can help others with the thing that you've struggled with, the more that you will be better off in a sense. And so it I don't know, as like a little sister to Pluto or whatever, where like can you confront your shadows in a sense and help others through it too, then maybe you'll be all right. And so it sits in your sixth house, yes. But sixth house also relates to, you know, work and your routines. And so it's almost like your pain becomes your purpose in a sense of what you're doing on a daily basis. And so if you're willing to do that, then I don't know. I don't see any issue why it would be a problem.
Yeah, in a way, it makes a lot of sense because only when I talk to one of my friends that is an Ayurvedic therapist that things started to get
Mm-hmm.
better. And
Mm,
I am a very disciplined person. When somebody says, do this, I do it.
mm-hmm.
And I do it exactly
Mm-hmm.
as they say. So I started to do every day what she told me, and things got better.
Mm-hmm.
But it was only when I told her. But I think it makes a lot of sense. I need
Yeah.
that's something that I've always needed a structure, routine. If I'm out of it, and it kind of makes it something happens, like something falls apart. So I need to always stay on track. And I usually, when I travel, when I move, I prepare things like ahead, like weeks ahead. And going to Greece,
Hmm.
I packed in one day, and I didn't take medicines. I didn't take the things that I'm used to. I
Yeah.
thought that when I arrived in Greece, I would find it. But not only they don't speak the same language, they don't use the same alphabet. So
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that. I imagine that made things a lot more difficult.
so things made, at least in Spain, I speak Spanish.
Yeah, that's true. One thing to consider too is if you think about your natal placement with Chiron. What I find interesting was that you had mentioned that things got better when you asked for help. And Chiron sitting in the seventh house. I also have it sitting in my seventh house, just FYI, but it can often be related to a wound of not feeling like you can depend on other people. And so you confronting that and actually asking for help probably was had something to do with it, at least in my opinion.
Actually, one of the things that you're saying something amazing, because I've been learning this past 2 3 years how to ask for help, and even little things I've been asking for help, and it has been change. It has been like mind blowing. The results.
Yeah.
I remember that I made a friend in Greece, and I asked for her help, something silly, and she did, and she offered,
Mm-hmm.
and I ended up asking to stay at her place, not because I needed the money, but because I thought that if I stayed at her place the last 2 days that I was staying in Greece, I would feel happier instead of sad of because I was leaving.
Mm-hmm.
And I was that was the best thing ever. She even gave me a gift.
No, that's so sweet.
Yeah, and I told her,
That's amazing.
yeah, I told her, it's not that I don't have the money, because I had. It's because I don't want to be alone. And then, no, come. And I stayed with her and her family, and it was great, and I felt amazing. I went to Paris, and because I wanted to see if I wanted to live in Paris. And I didn't want to live in Paris. I went there and I felt like the heaviness. I don't know, the astrocartography that I have. Paris shows a lot
Yeah. Oh gosh.
of.
Sorry. You have a so the horizontal lines are called parens, and what they represent are crossing points of two different planetary energies. And usually, it's not as strong of an influence as the main planetary lines. But going right through Paris, you have a Mars Saturn line. So it's two malefics. It's very, very, when you say heavy, like, yes, that makes total sense.
Yeah, yeah, and I remember that I felt, when you just feel heavy, and I felt like I wanted to cry, and it was cold, it was dampy, it was
Mm-hmm.
humid, nothing was pretty,
Mm-hmm.
and I love Paris in a way. Yeah, I mean, my my illusion loves Paris, but I think that was the day that
Mm-hmm.
all the illusion crumbled, and I
Mm-hmm.
just saw it for what it was, and I just like, I don't want to leave here. I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want to run away. I stayed 3 months,
Oh my gosh.
and I was just like, and I should go to Paris to do the course with the woman that called me. She's in Paris.
Mm-hmm.
Then I decided that I spent like 6 months pondering on it. And then I thought, no, I'm not going. I'm not going.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to be happy there. I'm not going. And once I did that, I felt happy.
Mm-hmm. And I think what's interesting too is that it's like this is an excellent example of how your chart itself doesn't look that different compared to Barcelona, but you have this line that goes straight through Paris. Like it couldn't get any more exact, I don't think. And so Paris will always kind of hold a little bit of a heavier energy there for you. And I'll say like caveat is once you integrated the planetary energies of your chart and really owned, accepted it, and worked with it. These places that may have like, the negative signs or whatever may not feel as heavy. And so the fact that, you were feeling all this stress, you're feeling all this there's just like blah energy being in Paris, and then taking that decisive action to not pursue something that is not necessarily in your best interest, that that energy just became a lot easier to work with. Is that accurate, or did I miss something?
No, made a lot of sense. Made a lot of sense. I think it's not that I'm not going to pursue it. I still am going to pursue it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna leave there. I can take the train from Barcelona, for example,
Yeah. Yeah.
and go to Paris and do the course and come back
Okay.
once or
Interesting.
twice a month. And it's cheaper, it's better, and I can I can go around the city and still be be okay.
Yeah. Interesting. Sorry, I apologize. My son just walked into the room,
It's okay.
so
It's
he's
okay.
curious. Well, give me 1 second. Let me talk to him real quick.
And that's I think that's when I understood that um, things just I even thought about going to Berlin, where there is my son in Berlin. There is a son in Berlin, and then see, wow, there's a good thing in Berlin. I even thought about going to
Yeah.
Berlin. I thought
Yeah.
that Berlin maybe would be the best place for me to go because you can take the train and go to Paris also, and it's
Hmm.
much more vivid when it comes to dance and to dance and
Sorry.
stuff. But I don't know. We'll see. It looks kind of the same, right?
So you've been wanting to go to Berlin, yes?
Actually, it's not a
And
want, it's a thought that crossed my mind like
okay,
vividly.
yeah, yes. So sun is sitting right there on your midheaven, and usually what happens in like a sun midheaven line is you are more likely to get recognized for your work, the things that you do. You're more likely to be seen. Your ability to shine comes out a lot more too. Um, so I think that that could be a really interesting place for you to go. Your ascendant still stays in Sagittarius. You have North Node Ceres all sitting in your fifth house. Chiron still sits in your sixth house. And so, yeah, there's not like a ton else that
No,
changes compared to like Barcelona, but I don't know. Maybe I don't know if there is like a again, I'm not super familiar with the ballet industry, but it's are there like shows or something that you could uh, audition for that would be there or something where
yeah,
it's not necessarily like you would live there, but
yeah.
um,
It's pretty easy when you are in Europe, as I said. The problem is that my German is rusty, but they will say
German's difficult.
German is German is German is a difficult language. Um, but I do like it. I do like the language. I do like the literature. I do like the music. I do like it.
Yeah.
But I do think in the way, I do think it's a heavy city. But I think it might be
Mm,
heavy because for spiritual reasons that it's just heavy. But it's at the same
mm,
time, I do like the vibe anyway. I can work with that.
mm-hmm,
But yes. If I think that I can choose to be if I choose to go to Barcelona instead of Berlin, I can choose to stay in Barcelona in a nice place because
mm-hmm,
Barcelona is way cheaper than Berlin. And
yeah.
if something happens, you can go. Usually, you can do if you're not gonna go work for a company, which is something that I don't think that I'm gonna work for a company. I'm already 40. I don't intend to work for companies anymore. It's a
Mm-hmm,
very heavy work. I have my injuries, but I can do what we say is like season work. You audition for a job,
mm-hmm,
and then you go and you work for that job for specific amount of time, for example, 2 months,
Hmm.
3 months, and you're
Hmm.
done. So it's more doable like that.
Yeah. No, I think that makes sense. I've never lived in Germany. I've been to Germany several times. My husband has lived in Germany, but it can be a little bit of a challenge sometimes.
It is,
But
it is. I think
yeah.
Berlin, after all, is better in many ways
Hmm.
for the international community, but it's
Hmm.
still
Definitely a lot of
hardcore.
expats.
It's people are
Yeah.
grumpy, and the same thing as in Paris. You walk and nobody smiles, and I I'm from Brazil, and people here smile a lot, and they hug you and they talk
Mm.
to you in the street, and like the Greek people, they
Hmm.
smile a lot, they treat you kind, they hug you, and they
Yeah.
make you feel at home. And that's not
Yeah.
gonna happen in Paris. That's not gonna happen in France. I mean, in the south of France, probably, but that's definitely not gonna happen in Germany. The personal space of a German
I
is a 2 square meter.
yeah. I mean it's interesting though because in Berlin it's like you have Venus moving into your 11th house here. So house of friendships, community, and that sort of thing. So I wonder if maybe you may have better luck there finding like the friendships
I do actually
than you do elsewhere. So
attract. I do attract. This is something very interesting. I've always did attracted Berliners to my life. I went to Cuba.
so funny.
I went to Cuba to do a course, and there was a Berliner girl there.
Hmm.
Loved
Hmm.
her. These people, they don't show affection. It's important to mention. These
Yeah.
people, Dutch people, German people, they don't show affection
Hmm.
at all. I know because part of my family is German. You don't get a hug from them. You don't get nothing. And she hugged me and she
Mm.
said, I will miss you so much. And she calls me
Mm.
from time to time to see how I am. And from time to time, she likes my stuff. I know that it's a different type of love, but she showed affection
Yeah.
and she made sure that while I was there, that I was her friend, that I felt
Yeah.
wanted. She made me feel wanted.
Yeah.
This is not easy for a German. Germans are not like them.
Mm.
And men
For the most
also,
part, yeah.
men also. My last boyfriend was is he's not dead. He's from Berlin. Uh,
Okay.
amazing, amazing. Also, people say, oh, Germans are cold. He was someone making the effort to show how much he liked me, how much he loved me, how much
Mm.
I was important to him. I think the
Hmm.
Venus somehow and the Sun somehow makes it. Whenever I am in the Berliner community online and I say, oh, I'm going to be
Hmm.
in Berlin for as a dancer, I always offer myself for photos, for videos as a collaboration because this is a way
Hmm.
that okay, I do the job for free, but 7 out of 10 times that I did these jobs for free, I got a huge job out of that
Yeah.
because you meet people and
Yeah.
I did that. I sometimes I just post, oh, I'm gonna be in Berlin from this to this, and I get
Hmm.
tons, and that doesn't happen in many other places.
That's so interesting.
Now it
Yeah.
makes sense that it has this.
Yeah. Yeah. And you bring up a great point too that I think a lot of people aren't aware of is like just because, you don't travel necessarily to that place, people from that place or aspects of the culture from that specific place also carry that energy. And so that will also be significant in your life too. The people from those places can carry that energy too. And so sometimes people will see a certain line, they're like, oh, I need to go there. And like, not necessarily. Sometimes they'll come to you.
Yes, yes, yes. And he was one of the guys that I told you. He was a Leo with a very Virgo position and very Virgo and Venus in Aquarius. He was a
Okay.
very odd person, but amazing at the same time. Very
That's awesome.
German.
Yeah. So Berlin, promising, I guess. Or perhaps worth exploring in the future. Southern part of Germany, maybe not, but
Okay, okay, I'll keep that in
like,
mind.
yeah, yeah, um, yeah. But even like, was it Hamburg, which is up here? It's it's a little farther off from your Sun Midheaven line, but it's also close to this Neptune Mercury line.
What is the
And
place?
so it's like
Hamburg.
Hamburg.
Oh,
Yeah,
this guy was
I don't know
born
if
in
that's ever been
Hamburg.
on your radar. Oh, okay.
This guy was born in Hamburg.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Just one
Um,
question. What is
mhm.
uh what is the line that goes in there are the lines of the moon and something else going straight through Paterna? Paterna?
Oh,
And crossing Italy. What is the line?
yeah. The line that you saw was a Moon Venus line, and then it also intersects here between Jupiter ascendant, and then your Sun midheaven line is also near there. The other side of it is you also have a Pluto Mars line going through here, and so those horizontal lines, it's like that intersection point adds an additional layer of energy to it that may not necessarily be reflected in your chart itself. And so when I think of those two lines there, the Venus moon and then the Pluto Mars, it's like, wanting, maybe even having a very lovely, nurturing, enjoyable experience there, but then also having, this drive, this is empowerment, even. I don't know if empowerment is necessarily even it, but like having Mars there, it might be a little bit heavier.
A little bit too
But I
much.
wonder if,
A bit too much.
yeah, yeah, it may be like a lot of,
I am actually much more interested in something that I'm seeing here, but it's not with the Jupiter line. It's close to Greece, but it's above. You see another cross, like going close to Sarajevo. Yes, there. There is interesting.
this one.
It's Croatia.
Yeah. So
No,
here's
Dubrovnik,
you
Dubrovnik
want,
is.
yeah. So let's look at Saturday. Yeah. So it's interesting because the planetary crossing is literally right there. So, because normally when these crossing lines, it may be on the other side of the world that where you're seeing it happen, but here, so it's like your Mercury midheaven, and then you have Pluto midheaven line near there too, but then also the Jupiter on the ascendant. And so if you thought you were lucky before, you're gonna be real lucky after that in there.
Like, just,
Just
just,
in
just. I know that you need to talk, but I'm gonna give you the reason to talk about what you just said. The
okay.
the brand that contacted me and that sent
Hmm.
me amazing skincare products is from Croatia,
Hmm.
out of the blue. And
That's amazing.
and last year I got a job offer out of the blue to work in Croatia, making good
Mm,
money. I just didn't take it because it wasn't the moment. But the doors are open. And I mean, it has been a while that Croatia has been calling me.
yeah.
And
Oh, that's so cool.
that made a lot of sense. Now you said that. And not only that, um, it, it has been a while that Croatian brands and Croatian people have been like um, sending me things like, oh, hello, and following me. It might sound, oh, it's silly, but it isn't. Because when you have a brand
Hmm.
that out of the blue sends you something, and I'm not even a huge influencer, I have 1,000 followers on my Instagram
Hmm.
account, the Brazilian account. I made another one to
Hmm.
start working with the international, but I have like 1,400. It's not a lot.
Okay.
And then they just like, oh,
Yeah.
we would like to send you a couple things so you can try it. And they sent like a huge box.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, and
I
you're saying if you were not lucky, if you were already lucky before, try this.
that is That's really funny to think about. I guess that came out of Croatia, but yeah, I mean, again, influence of the planetary energies. I guess. Um, yeah. So I guess I'd be curious too is how you leave your mark in the world in how it relates to that area too, specifically because you do have that Mercury and Pluto right near your midheaven, and so I know we talked briefly about some of the transits that may be coming up for you. Pluto's currently retrograde, and I think towards the end of the year, it's getting closer to about 1 degree in Aquarius, which would be squaring your natal Pluto, and so it's revisiting your own personal power, how you transform what you thought you were before, in a sense, and really stepping into who you're meant to become. Because I think this will actually be the last time that it will be that close to squaring your natal Pluto. So I wonder if any of those themes have come up for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
wait,
Okay.
here I go.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, if you were to go to Croatia, I think that could be a interesting place for you. Especially if it's like what you wanted to do as far as the teaching things online too. Your sun moves into the ninth house there. You have Uranus in Sagittarius sitting in your 11th house, which can also relate to, internet, internet communities and stuff. So, and Venus sits there, and then Jupiter, just luck. So yeah,
Yeah, because
something to
because
consider.
one thing that I've learned is that I don't need to go to live there, but I can go and spend like a while, and and just feel the energy. I know a girl who understands a lot of astrocartography, and then when she goes to
Mm-hmm.
launch her project,
Mm-hmm.
she
Mm-hmm.
goes to her line of Jupiter, and then she launches it,
Mm,
and it's
nice.
amazing.
That's amazing. I should take that up.
Yes, she goes.
I'm
She
gonna try
went
that
to
out sometime.
Norway to the
Wow.
to like I don't know where she went in Norway, but
Mm-hmm.
it was like the end of Norway, and she launched
Okay.
her program, her app actually, and
Mm-hmm.
it sold out like in 2 3 days.
That's amazing.
And she
Wow.
said, I did
Okay.
it because I believed that going to my Jupiter line would help. And it did.
Go.
She is doing amazing. Every time she launches something, she goes to her Jupiter line. She finds her Jupiter line somewhere because you can
Mm-hmm.
see your Jupiter line in many places. But I think the
Mm-hmm.
strongest is in Norway for her.
Mm-hmm.
And she just went and it was amazing. And she
Mm-hmm.
made like this whole journey of her going there. And I think that yes, going to a Jupiter line, like when I went to Greece, things didn't really go my way for
Yeah.
work in a way.
Mm-hmm.
But they did go well spiritually. It felt like I was being held to do the things that I needed to do, like spiritually and emotionally. And as a
Yeah.
person, I grew up so much there, and I felt at home in my own skin, which is something that I never felt
Mm.
before. So,
Oh, that's beautiful.
and that's why I say this real being empowered, being in your own power, because you're searching for power outside of yourself. And there I understood that it
Mm-hmm.
was within me, and it was beautiful, it was
Yeah.
amazing. So I wonder how it would be to go to a Jupiter line. Um, Now I know where it is, like
Mm.
the the right places.
Yeah. So I wonder, because you had that experience in Greece of finding that deep power within yourself, that's essentially this crossing point of Pluto and Mars that's contributing to that deep inner work, and that carries forward on this parent line. And so if you were to actually go over here, where your sun is very close to your midheaven, you have this Jupiter line on your ascendant where it's a lot closer. If it would actually be stronger, where you were able to embody that deep inner knowing, that deep inner power that you've cultivated from your time in Greece, without it being as strong, if you would kind of get more benefit from being over here.
Maybe. And it's
Um,
an easy place to go.
yeah, something to consider.
Croatia looks better.
Yeah, Croatia. Croatia is probably going to be a little bit easier, we'll say. Not as much of the heavier energy there.
Yeah, I think I'm
um,
gonna organize myself to go because it's very close to Napoli, and I have
mhm.
great friends there, so
Oh,
it's
okay.
it's a moment to go and travel a little.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Croatia is now my number one priority.
I'd love to hear how it goes if you do make it out to Croatia and
I will organize and I
hear how
will
you
tell
enjoy
you
it.
all about it because
Yeah.
it really looks like a lucky place.
Yeah. Actually, hold on a second. I want to see what this distance is here. Because, so these parents have a distance of about 70. I don't know if you've ever like considered Split.
This,
I don't even know how to
yes,
actually
they
pronounce it.
called me to go to Split.
That's funny. Because so this crossing line here is the Jupiter Mercury crossing, and so extra Jupiter energy
And
and
there's a
Mercury, and
sun
so
close, not too close, but
hmm
somewhere.
yep, yep. So it's you get all that there.
They called me to
So
go to
I don't know.
Split. I'm
Yeah.
gonna say, so I'm gonna tell you, I wouldn't like to go to Split though. I would prefer to go to Dubrovnik because Split is a
Okay.
very, it's like I mean, during the summer, of course, I would go eventually after, but during the summer,
Mm,
Split is it's kind of like the Blue Coast in La Côte d'Azur in France, very
mm,
expensive and full of
mm.
tourists. Dubrovnik is not that,
Okay.
it's not that full, it's less. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, eventually, um, it wasn't exactly the job of my dreams, but it made, I even wondered if I should go.
Hmm.
But you, but yeah, maybe splits, maybe not to go to this work, but maybe there is Splits is an amazing city to live,
Yeah. Well, you'll be very lucky there. So
to think of.
yeah. Yeah. Well, okay. Yeah, I would love to hear how that goes for you, and if you travel to any of these other places too that we had talked about. But good. Okay.
I
Well,
laughed a
thank you so
lot. I
much.
laughed a lot, and I had a lot of fun. Though.
I did too. I always enjoy these going through, the astrocartography, the astrology, the just helping people find more information about the places that they're interested or that they're being called to go to in a sense too. So thank you for allowing me to do this for you and to learn more about you and your life and the things that you've done. So
Thank
it's
you.
fascinating to me. So
Thank you. I had a
thank you.
fascinating time. I was I was I was open and it really
Yeah.
paid off. And it is an exercise that I've been doing because talking about my map on the podcast
Mhm.
is for a Scorpio. Rising is it's very delicate, but I think
Yes.
I've been working on exposing myself more according to my midheaven reading that I would have to
Hmm.
do that more. And
Hmm.
I saw that as a great opportunity to put that in practice.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm proud of you. I know, I know a lot of people with a lot of Scorpio placements, and they do not like their business out in public. And so I applaud you for that, and I also greatly appreciate it too. I think this is as much like a learning experience for me too. There's a lot of theoretical knowledge out there, but putting it into practice is a completely different thing, right? And having people being willing to be open and sharing their experiences and how that actually played out for them is also interesting too, because I think it can also help other people see, this is real. This is like, this isn't some woo woo made up stuff. It's like, it actually kind of plays out that way too. So
Yeah, yeah,
thank you.
yeah. And it made, like, for example, we were talking about Croatia. It was
Hmm.
mesmerizing. I was mesmerized. Like, what? Like, And there's like this little voice, why don't you go to Croatia? It's gonna be good. And like Croatia,
Yeah.
and now it made sense. Like Croatia made a lot of sense, even if it's not to
Yeah.
live. Like doing like this girl that I said that she goes to the place
Hmm.
like to activate her maximum strength. She goes there,
Hmm.
and maybe that's what I need to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, at the very least, it would be a very nice vacation.
Exactly, exactly. I'm
So, yeah.
100% sure that it would be.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. And I would really love it for if you did share like your experience after you go, and just hear how it all played out for you.
I will.
So
I will.
thank you again.
Thank you so much. Have a great night. Have a great week.
Thank you.